Yeah, seriously, we need to talk about that. This is bullshit. You know, nobody knows how hard it is. You see this, America? It takes a lot of work to put this together. It's fucking hard. I wake up every morning, hit the bike, hit the row machine. But while it's not effortless, it takes a lot of work. What doesn't take a lot of work is going to triplenickel.com and getting yourself some really nice swag. Ooh, yeah, I gotta get that out of the way. Gotta check out the Hero Cash shirt. It's one of the great shirts you can get there. And if you use my code, Security Halt Podcast, you get 10% off. So we'll knock that out of the way. Done. TripleNickel.com. Hit them up. SF Brothers on a mission to bring you quality goods with a message we can all rally around. And today, Cast, welcome, because this is your show. We're just talking about everything and anything that's Cast. Last time we talked, we connected over Modern Warfare Week at Fort Liberty. It's still so weird to say that name. But we were talking about some awesome things. As we age, as we progress, we take on roles such as being a mentor and a coach. And dude, what you were talking about was nothing less than powerful, game-changing. We often think that the way we mentor young men has to be with this iron fist, and we can't give that human connection. Yet, I will argue that what you're doing and with the message you shared, making the human connection, not only does it lead to more positive development, but you inspire others when you're able to tell them, like, hey, we all fail. And in fact, I was a student like you once. I've been through this. You can persevere. But I'm not going to tell your story. So please carry on. Tell us about what you're doing today and how you found a better way to mentor and coach.
So I am now lucky enough to be an instructor back at the SOCM course at JSOM TC. And, it was a humbling experience going in, excuse me, because I got to work with all of my instructors. So it's kind of like I get to work with the guys that inspired me to try to become them. And so it's a good experience. And one thing that I've noticed that at least my students connect with the most, like I'm probably not their favorite instructor, because there are some really cool instructors there that have, even crazier stories than mine. But one of my main goals always is to show them that you can still succeed after failing, and I share a lot of my failures with them. And I even have other people that I know that have excelled and surpassed my level within special operations, that their whole career started out as a failure. Yep. And, just to kind of share with them, like, just because you fail the test here or even fail out of this course doesn't mean that your whole career or even, your worth is over. And I think when we came through, that was very, very hinged on your identity and how good you were going to be on a team, as if you even made it to a team. The things that you were able to achieve just in training and prior to showing up, they weren't good enough,
Yeah.
You were going to get the shit end of a stick, and not that I don't want them trying to be the best, but just because they don't achieve it every time doesn't mean that they're not gonna get there.
Exactly. I mean? Yeah, it's a powerful message that we don't talk about enough, and it was a different time, right? I think our instructors had a different approach. It was fucking balls to the wall, push dudes through the fucking pipeline. And I think when you have prior experience, you're able to be a little more resilient. Like I was coming from the 82nd. Like I knew failure, I knew success, and like I knew no matter what these dudes said to me, like I'm gonna fucking get it. But I remember seeing my brothers that were X-rays that had never had that resilience tested, and they were just like, I can't fail. Failure, I'll never bounce back. I'll never make it through this if I fail one thing. And it's like, dude, like I always knew, like, hey, I'm gonna fucking blaze through this fucking thing. But if something happens, I'm gonna reassess. I'm gonna fucking adjust, shift fire, and I'm gonna continue, because ultimately the goal is to become a Green Beret. The goal is to get the beret. If something happens, I'll deal with it then, but I'm gonna fucking get this thing. And there were so many guys that were just like, fuck it, if it's done, it's done, and I'm done. Like one time go, and I'm like, bro, no. Like, you don't. I remember telling guys that were on their way to the 82nd because something happened, they failed, and they're like, I'm never doing this again. I'm done. Like, wait a second. What was the mission? What was the mission? To get the beret, to get that long tab, make it to group. Your mission now is going to take a little longer. You're going to have to go to fucking Gen Ed. You're going to have to go fucking get that associate's degree at the 82nd now. But you're going to come back. You make it back. And out of all those cats, like, I never later on down the road, never heard of any that came back and fucking went through the trials again. Like, how dead set were we on just fucking accepting that, like, oh, fuck, defeat? Like, no, man. It says it in our fucking creed. Live to succeed again.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Fuck, dude. Like, but I've seen guys, and now that we're looking back, I've seen guys that we come up with that they didn't make it the first time. Like some dudes like third time, man. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Or they failed MOS. And they're like, fuck. Like, how many dudes like, hey,
and they end up another MOS?
Yeah. I desperately wanted to be an 18 Delta. I don't have 18 Delta math. So I instantly, like, in selection was like, hey, you're going to be a Bravo. But I know a lot of solid fucking dudes that started out as a Delta, didn't fucking make it. Because, dude, you guys have the hardest fucking MOS to learn through.
You know what they say? It's the longest echo course. A lot of guys, in my experience, that don't make it through there go on and become really good echoes. But it's definitely, that's one thing I tell a lot of my students is when we talk about physical exams and stuff like that, specifically knowing their patient population, and I use a reference as us when we were coming through, we're just not necessarily you or me or my generation, but just people who try to do this type of thing.
Yeah.
You can't believe them when they come to your clinic. If they're a true, in a sense, maybe more so like a one-on-one. Like if you're really asking a guy that really wants to be there if he's injured, he's gonna say no. And there's gonna be times where you have to save them from themselves. Because just think about the things that we've done just for a funky Girl Scout hat, or cool things on our chests, or extra cool badges. Like, how many people do we know completed a ruck march at some point in their selection or something like that with a broken foot, or stress fractures in their hips and stuff like that? The Q course is a grind, and I don't think but I do think, in a sense, that makes for stronger guys, in a sense.
It does.
So, like, it's like I was saying, like in those kind of exams, you really have to like try to step in and take charge of this guy and be like, hey, like, we need to give you a break, and we need to enforce this break upon you. And that's one reason that guys in our line of work end up, as physically destroyed as they do, is because nobody stepped in. A lot of times, and you probably know many people were given that pass to go do that mission or something like that, and only made them worse off.
Yeah.
So kind of like using a high index of suspicion when you're dealing with people like us as patients.
We make the worst fucking patients. We really do.
Yeah, dude, Delta's like, I'm the worst. Personally, I'm the worst patient. As much knowledge as I'm supposed to have in the medical realm, I lose it all. If like myself or my wife or my daughter are sick, like, oh, I don't know nothing anymore. You know, I'm on Google just like the next guy. You know, I can tell people how to take care of themselves all day, but you know, enforcing it upon myself has always been the hardest.
Yeah,
Hardest feat.
absolutely.
You know,
What's it
in
like?
physical and mental health. You
Yeah.
know,
When you're looking at these new guys coming in the course, like there's the perception that the man coming in or the person these days coming into the arena is not as capable. How are you see? Because like, I think one of the easiest things for us to like get a sense of metrics is how are guys passing the 18 Delta course now? How many, like, is it still like you're seeing the same amount of attrition, or are guys able to meet the demands of the course?
I I can only speak of my section where I'm at, and I don't know enough about the other sections to really comment on any of their metrics. So you know, I hope none of this gets skewed into those lines. Um, as far as the block that I am in, which is clinical medicine, I try. I can't help but try to compare them to us, and the physicality and the tenacity in that realm, I don't necessarily see, like the competitiveness and stuff, which was in some sense enforced upon us,
Yeah.
and we were put in those positions. But I also think it was one of those things that bred greatness in that realm, you know. But academically, I will say that not only have we been able to raise the bar on the knowledge that these candidates are supposed to know, they have raised to the bar as well, as far as just academic stuff.
That's
So,
awesome.
you know, in my realm, in my block, it's mostly just lectures and exams, right? There's very few hands-on. So just to kind of give you an idea of what they're doing. Things change, of course, once they go further on the course and it's more hands-on and things are timed and a lot more stress. Ours is a very low stress environment because the content of which they're receiving is very high.
Yeah.
And they're already under enough stress. You know, like they'll get, a book for, multiple sections. Just for example, in the first 4 or 5 days of the block, I teach about 2 days worth of dermatology, excuse me, dermatology, and disorders therein. After about 4 or 5 days with that big lump right in the middle, they have to test on all of it, which, we had to do the same thing, but they also are being held to a higher standard, I think, because they are actually getting credits for advanced degrees.
Yeah.
So because of that, we have to hold them to a higher standard. And the tests, excuse me, are now computerized. So, like, no two tests will ever be the same. So it's really hard to game it.
Yeah.
So they actually, like, if they got within the 90s, normally, like, it's very impressive. And if they're able to maintain that, it speaks volumes of them. Now, I don't know how that carries over to the other sections, because I've seen plenty of people that were, low on the low end of the GPA do much better in the hands-on section, or at least I've seen them further on in the course. And then I've also seen people that are super high in the academics end up on the carpet, possibly leaving the course. because the hands-on sometimes overwhelm. But at least in our section, I would say that it's impressive, and I don't know if I could have pulled it off under the same academic pressure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that the pressure was higher because of the morning meetings and all of there was a higher stress level. So
yeah,
for us, when it came through, a 75 was a 75. Thank God I got a 75, but now since it actually holds a GPA that goes towards a higher education, that there's a little bit more pressure on them to keep that high GPA.
And that's huge. That's kudos to the people that engineered and changed that aspect of the Delta course, because for those that are listening that don't understand, like, for a lot of our partner nation forces and a lot of the places we go to, that 18 Delta is a fucking doctor. That is no bullshit. For a lot of the people we work with, that is the greatest level of care they would have seen. Like, and I know, looking back on our Afghan deployments, like, that doctor or that 18 Delta is a doctor to the Afghan partner force, and you guys see everything. To walk out of that without having college credit is insane to me.
Yeah, it's impressive. I'm happy. I'm happy for this current generation in that aspect. There's also that salty old part of me, like, oh, we're you motherfucker, but
It's not fair. It's damn you.
I had to work, but it still is. It's awesome, and I hope that doesn't go away for them. And truly, like, if you were to compare the amount of knowledge that they're supposed to memorize, at least in that small period of time, it's definitely it's a feat in itself. Now I can't say that I contained any of it, but at least being able to eat it and then regurgitate it in that time frame was definitely a challenge. But
no, you're definitely a humble man, but I know for a fact, and for all the 18 Deltas that I worked with and dealt with, like, you guys are impressive. And now being back in the schoolhouse, how have you changed in your approach to teach? Because it's one thing to teach as an NCO. It's one thing to be the senior 18 Delta. Now you're part of you're the PhD sort of. You're on the committee. You've got tenure on now, damn it.
Yeah. I would say it's kind of, one of the advantage of getting older and getting more experience, and that is I try to bring a little of that to the table without also being like, that, oh, back in my day, kind of thing. Just like I said before, I like to tell a few stories of, maybe it'll just be better if I tell one of my stories, and that helps. So, like, for example, we're talking about when I first joined the Army, right? And so when I first joined the Army, I came in as a regular medic. As a regular medic, I still didn't know shit. Don't teach you anything really, and I forgot about that. But
water and Motrin.
Yeah, for example, at one time when we had actual physical glass thermometers, there was the red tip and then the blue tip, or just clear tip. And I didn't know that there was a difference in that. I never learned it in my regular medic school. I learned it at the expense of another person when my squad leader came in, and I was doing one of my first exams. I'd been on the job 3 days or something like that. And he comes in, he's like, oh my God, what is that? I think it's broken, and we need to get a new one. And pulls me out and tells me, and he's of course don't tell the guy, but he just had, a rectal thermometer in his mouth. So red means rectal. I was like, oh, cool. So that's a significant emotional experience that now has burned into my mind. I'll never forget that, right? So that, and I'm using that as a preface to show you about where I was in my knowledge of medicine at the time.
Yeah.
Right. I was in E2, and this was in third ACR. So now it's maybe the second week on the job. My PA is an old 18 Delta. All right. So that's also like one of my first like interactions with an 18 Delta, right? Other than my father. And so this guy comes in, and the guy is what's called a master gunner. And in the cavalry, that's like, he's kind of like a battalion level leader kind of guy. I don't really remember what it was, but at the time I remember me being like, oh shit, this is big dick
Big
cheese.
wig.
And he was a master sergeant. I was an E2, and at that point in my career, I hadn't seen very many of them, right? So he comes in, he's complaining about poop in his stool. And I'm like, oh, that's not good, you know, and like I write up like a, you know, a note, and and I get it, do an exam on him and whatnot. And then I go to the PA, and I'm like, hey, sir, dude says this. And he goes, oh, did you check for cold blood? And I'm like, I don't know where witchcraft comes into this. I don't know anything about cults, you know, like what? And he's like, you fucking idiot. And he like hands me this card. So there's a card. And then he goes, go in there, put your finger up his ass, and then wipe it on here, and then, you know, run it. And it'll show up and tell you if there's poop in it, or if there's blood in his poop. I'm like, cool. You know? So this is the first time in my life that I'm about to go look at a man's asshole. Not to mention, I'm like,
at least the first time you're getting paid to do it.
Yeah. You know, and there's some pressure, you know, he's, you know, a much older, higher ranking dude. I'm this, you know, cute little, you know, cute little fucking E2, you know, and I go in there and I'm like, hey, Master Sergeant, I gotta do this. And fuck you are. And then I kind of explained to him that it's important and we got to test this. And, and finally, after whatever amount of time, he agrees to let me do it. So I lube up, put my finger up his ass, pull my finger out, and it's clean as a whistle. In my dumb mind at the time, I thought that I had to pull poop out of his butt. And poop had to go on the fucking card, right? So I go, oh shit, I didn't get any poop. And he's like, what, you know, and I explained to him that, oh, I had to get poop out, you know, because I don't know anything about what I'm doing. And so I have to fight with this guy and be like, Master, I think I got to do it again. And he's, motherfucker, you got fucking, you know, and like giving me a little ass chewing. And then finally he's like, all right, but you better do it again and get it this time. And so I go fucking full nut, you know, I'm wearing this guy like a fucking puppet, and I pull it out and I still no poop. And I'm like, man, this guy's got the cleanest fucking asshole I could come across. And I explain it to him again. And I'm like, I can't. And then finally I'm like, I don't want to do it again. And he's like, I don't want you to fucking do it again. And then I'm like, you do it. And so I convinced him to fucking stick his own finger up his own ass to try to get poop on this car. And like he was doing it like facing me, like front, back, like didn't bend over. And he's like, you know, leg up trying to get it up under. And I'm like, you know, this is not where I expected my career to go. But here we are. Hey, medicine. And he doesn't get any poop on his finger either. And so now I finally decide to go talk to the PA. And of course he's like, you fucking dumbass. And he comes in and he's a big old dude. And he's got like sausage fingers, of course. I think they like blow him up or something once you graduate from the Army. And he's like, Rob, fucking, he's an idiot. Fucking bend over. And basically like forces this guy to bend over so he can put his big sausage fingers into his ass again, you know, for like the fifth time. and then just wipes it on there and chucks it at me and hits me in my chest with an out fucking ass juice card. And I'm like, and he's like, just fucking test it, you dummy. And then like goes back to his office. And then like, I look at the master, I scurry off, and, he didn't have any blood in his poop, by the way. But I use that to be like, hey, like there's going to be times in your fucking career where you're going to be like, something's not right. Just stop right there and go ask a fucking question and go ask for help. And that goes with everything, your career, your mental health, something. Like, don't spend your fucking morning watching another dude finger blast his fucking asshole because you didn't go ask somebody, is this the right thing? You'll save a lot of people some problems, like a sore asshole. Like you won't, So it's things like that I share with them to try to get it across in a funny manner. But, like that's a true story. Like that dude, granted, he obviously wasn't the smartest guy to let himself get fucking finger blasted multiple times. But it was and
then try himself.
And then try himself. I guess he was just being a good sport at that point. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Can't send a boy to do a man's job.
These fucking new guys don't know how to finger an asshole.
So the question is, how many times was that dude waiting outside your office for sick call after that?
I mean,
I gotta go to sick call. This is the fifth time this week, sir. I gotta go to sick call.
Free beers are free beers, my man.
Oh, that's so true, though. If you don't know what you're doing, ask for help. Ask for guidance.
Yes. Yeah. Because who knows? Everybody in that room may be dumb like both of us were.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's but you know what? It's those stories, not only do they serve to impact like real, like you're gonna always remember. If you hear that story, you're gonna always remember it. Especially in a learning scenario. In the schoolhouse, that's where you need it. Because oftentimes a lot of instructors aren't willing to put that human face and teach from that point. I remember having so many instructors that were just like, here's the data, here's the information, don't fucking talk to me. Like, go bash your brains against a wall in your sad fucking barracks room, and then we'll see you again tomorrow.
Yeah. I would also have to send accolades up to whomever higher, because I feel like there has been somewhat, and I can only talk about this like from an instructor point and then from a student point. And you probably have some experiences as well back when you were a student where it was kind of like, this is my fucking guy, like this is the guy I'm supposed to be like, and like just straight over the top or whatever, and it always seemed like maybe, and there was rumors that, a lot of these guys were there because they weren't wanted other places and kind of things. Yeah. And I feel like for my small time being there active duty, and then switching over, it feels like there's more of an effort to get the people there that want to be there and that actually like, share that like these guys are our replacements, so we have to, there's still the side of like keeping them tough and trying to, work on that. And there are stages in there for that. But like also like, hey, like we need to make sure that they know as much as we can give them in a way that they're going to remember it. And also like buy-in, like there has to be that connection to, our lineage. And I think that's one cool thing I've seen around. We've got guys teaching that were in Vietnam, with with the medical knowledge that goes back to that point, and still being able to like bring relevancy of some of the older techniques into modern, especially warfare that we're facing like right now, and possible in your future. That a lot of that sticking to the basics really freaking works, and that's kind of cool. And I feel like that's a benefit that these guys have. That there's a longer lineage in the schoolhouse than there was when I came through. You know what I mean? Some of these guys were there, but I didn't get to interact with them as much as they are interacting with the students now. And it's like some really cool takeaways, not just medical knowledge, but also like life knowledge. Like they share stories. And I can't say that every student in there are even paying attention or like that it, resonates with them at all. But I feel like there's a couple, and that's really all we need, really, to be able to carry that torch on.
Yeah. I was just talking about that today with a recently retired friend, grabbed coffee, and we tend to think when we're in uniform, I know for a fact that I very much thought this way. The current warfare that we're in, because it been going on for 20 something years at that point, that's the most important thing. That's what war is going to always be like this till it isn't. Like my understanding and my frame of reference for warfare is outdated now. That's gone. Afghanistan, Iraq is gone. What we're facing, what the next generation of Green Berets are going to be dealing with, it's going to go back in line, and it's guys are having to go back to the starting board, redesign new plays, but take inspiration from generations way before Afghan and Iraq. Like, and it's cyclical. We have to look back to like the Berlin teams. Like, we don't even talk about that shit anymore. We don't even talk about fucking Cold War era Green Berets. But I bet you that is something that will come back at the forefront. We have to always remember like the things that are always like the basics. The fundamentals are going to always be there. And war is going to constantly change and grow because we're human beings. We're coming up with new ways to fucking kill each other and destabilize and overthrow governments. Like that's always going to change. Influence is always going to be a big thing. But like looking back in our career, we just always thought it was going to be like, oh, it's just fucking rotation Afghanistan, Iraq, boys.
Yeah,
it's not. And the medical care, the medical piece, that's huge. We were talking about it again a little while ago. Like all that skill, all that ingenuity from Vietnam era. Hey, you got a dude that's fucking injured and he didn't make it. Well, guess what? That's still an asset. That's still something viable. That's a blood bank right there. Like, fuck.
And that's definitely, that's something that is not being. I know somebody that's doing speeches on that and talks on that as far as like using cadaver blood and if that was the only option, it's an option, and if that one body can save multiple other lives, then it's still a use. It just, I think sometimes it might come down to an ethical,
us and ethics,
but
the gray line.
It's definitely something, from the past that's at least being talked about right now.
Yeah.
And not necessarily to actually turn it into a protocol or anything like that. Just kind of being like talked about how ingenious it was at one point, and maybe the openness to it in a super austere, in a pinch kind of situation.
Yeah.
But you're like taking the technology and the advanced level, as far as trauma medicine has gone, and now kind of taking away all that technology, and now trying to revert back to just your wits
Yeah.
is a very interesting, thing that's been going on, especially in in Ukraine, and people have new prolonged field care in basements and stuff like that.
Dude, that's a amazing segue. Prolonged field care. We got very comfortable and we were blessed. Like the golden hour, the ingenuity and the tech that came out, the tech that we had access to, blood coolers, because you're gonna have access to a big vehicle with powerful batteries you can recharge. Like being able to friggin' draw blood from you guys on your team if you absolutely needed it to, had all this equipment, and just like that, now we're facing a new type of war. Now we're in a different. Now we're again back to the drawing board. What are we going to lose as far as ingenuity and tech? What are we going to lose? Because you're not going to get a ghost team with you on every mission now. Like now that's like now we're going back to that vulnerability of like, ooh, shit.
I'm blanking on the saying, but basically, if you think about it now, like we've learned to operate at a higher level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it when in the worst type of situations or whatever you revert back to your lowest level of training, I think is how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're in a good spot in that aspect because now our lowest level of training is much higher than it was when we started OEF, OIF.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So our base knowledge is a lot higher, and we actually understand, especially in trauma medicine, just the physiology of the body when it's going through that. I think we have a much better understanding of that now. So now people can revert back to a higher base knowledge. Yeah. So I think as far as what you're saying with like where's ingenuity going to go, I think it's only going to go higher from there because ingenuity comes out of times of stress and lack of structure and people trying to figure out how to get around these things. So I think we're going to see some really cool things.
Yeah.
And at an unfortunate cost. So I think we will see an advance in that kind of thing. And I'm just happy I'm not going to have to be there doing it. And I really hope
that's the realest fucking thing ever. Yes.
Really, I hope we prepare everybody that has to deal with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right when they announced that ODAs will no longer be manned by 12, but instead 3. 3 humans augmented by 7 robots.
7 robots.
With Chat GPT. Man, I'm glad I'm not there.
It's funny you bring that up. Chat GPT. It just made me think about, we're talking about blending the old with the new.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers, Phil Gonzalez, like he is something I strive to be. He's definitely, he's in his 70s and he's still very active, and he's there as an instructor. He's one of the ones that have been there, but was in Vietnam. But he's also like, as far as communications, like he's the only person I know that still does like ham radio and like is really good at it, and because his first job in Vietnam was as an echo.
Oh no shit.
So he still like knows all of like the basic communication stuff. Even though I'm sure he can do advanced, but like he still like works on the basics. But then he can tell you everything that like he's super knowledgeable about Chat GPT. He uses it a lot. And so he's like one of those like perfect Green Berets in my mind. He like knows the basic, but he's adapting. Yeah. Even at the age that he is, he's like, knows Chat GPT. The man's getting a drone license. He can fly his own drones and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, that's so awesome because, like I wish I knew some of the basics. I know there's a lot of things that I forgot that I need to work on in case, we ever have that worst case scenario. And like he's living the example. I think he's definitely living the example of what of lifelong
learner.
poet. Yeah,
Yeah.
lifelong learner, warrior poet. Like I think he can go either way when the time comes.
Yeah.
And I hope the rest of us can do the same as well.
Well, that's one of the concepts about life as you get older, to maintain that ability to still be, have your own function and be able to live and sustain yourself. A lot of people think that you get old and you automatically have to go to a, in residence living home for senior citizens. Like, not true. Like, chasing and continuing the pursuit of knowledge helps maintain that ability to be self-sufficient. Like, I know plenty of older dudes are still kicking, still doing their own thing. When you compare it to, people the same age that are in assisted living, it's one of the things they don't do. They're not continuing trying to engage in difficult concepts. They're not engaged in something they love and they're passionate about. And what your
Yeah.
friend's doing is like he's still thriving because he's engaged with something that he loves. He's a constant learner, and he's around you guys. Like, what better environment like than being around his own community of Green Berets?
Yeah. It wasn't him, but one of the other guys said it. It like actually struck a chord with me because I never really planned on going back. There was a point where I was like, I would never go back to the schoolhouse and be an instructor. What? You know, uh, what? And then one of the other older instructors said it the other day because he was talking about himself and why he's still working because he's at retirement age as well. And he's like, I get paid really well to do something that I love doing, and I get to be around my people.
Yep.
I was like, shit, man, that's right. Like, I'm here, and even though I'm working in an office with somebody was a Vietnam Green Beret, and some that are current Green Berets, that are still active duty, we all still share that same kind of like bond. And it's like, dang, man, like I can see why people come and work in this job for years, for decades. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I always thought it was maybe more like a stepstone job.
Yeah.
But like it can get you,
If it's a lot of people tend to think that life has to be about this undying pursuit of unlimited fucking wealth, recognition, that fucking high paying job in the C-suite. Fuck that, dude. Fuck that. If that's not your passion, if that's not what you want in life, fucking don't prioritize it. Prioritize values. Prioritize fucking values. Don't worry about the paycheck. Don't worry about the fucking money. Prioritize values. Make that the priority, and you'll find income. You'll find income. You will. You will find a job to bring income. But prioritize the fucking value. What you do day in, day out, make sure it's in line with your fucking values. Or you're going to be miserable. You're going to be that fucking meme where it's the little dog sitting at the table and everything's on fucking fire. And he's just, I'm fine. I'm fine. Just fine.
Yeah.
Like, fuck that. I'd rather be happy. I'd rather be engaged in a pursuit that as a call to action to my own will than doing something that's like I found on LinkedIn for like money. Like what you're doing right now is fucking a dream job for so many fucking veterans. They're tied into a community that just they came from. They're teaching something that they're passionate about, and each day they're leaving the legacy behind a little bit better than before. That's fucking impactful. And at arguably the hardest fucking committee that we have within special operations, the Delta, the 18 Delta, who, as we all know, every other MOS can be fucking jettisoned at any moment for a mission. I can deploy without a fucking 18 Bravo. Done it all the fucking time. I can deploy without a fucking senior Charlie. Don't have an 18 Echo? Cool. I'll grab one of these fucking S6 cats. Like, you're mine now. Your sole job is SDN. Look at me. I am your captain now. Like, it's all you do. But an 18 Delta, you can't do shit without an 18 Delta. Like, I like, literally, like, it's the most important MOS. And when it comes to molding them, when it comes to making them, you have to make them resilient. Because at some point, he's going to have to look in the eyes of one of his own fucking dudes, and they are going to be in pain and in fear of losing their fucking eyes. And they got to make that connection and say, hey, dude, I got you. I fucking got you. And that's the beauty of that job. Because when everybody else shits to bed, the 18 Delta can't, and he won't. He'll always fucking be there. I've met a lot of shitty 18 Bravos, a lot of shitty 18 Echoes, but I've yet to meet a fucking bad 18 Delta. Well, no, I can't say that. There's one, but that he's an anomaly. We won't even talk about it.
Yeah, I think we all have our good days. Yeah,
That one was a fluke.
One of the so we also, at least in my section, we work with more than just the 18 series. You know, we have the Rangers that for foreign students and Navy students. And I think that's awesome because we also have some active duty Navy. And the reason I bring that up is because he pushes that a lot. You know what I mean? You never know when it may be your brother. It may, you never know, and he's lived that. You know what I mean? So, going back to being able to have that real life account with people that are willing to be vulnerable and share that with the students, I think is so it's paramount than much more important than being I'm so much better than you, I'm cooler than you, da da da. There have been times where I've stumbled and I've had to see other people pay the cost. And there's times where you had no case, there's times where you can't stumble, you can't fail. And these are the times when you're looking in the eyes of your teammates, and I think that helps get that story across, another crazy thing you were talking about, how, finding your purpose and whatever. And as far as work, even when I went into the job, I was like, oh, I'll do it until, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I was hearing I was worried when I got out, I was never going to find my passion, and, cause I didn't have anything, like that when I got out. I was not passionate about anything aside from my daughter, she ain't paying me, so I had to find something. I'd go work there, but I eventually started realizing oh shit, medicine and education are those two things combined are something that I'm realizing more and more every day that I'm actually really into. And it's crazy because same thing today, I saw somebody talking, speech, whatever, answering a question. Somebody said, well, what do you tell somebody who doesn't know what their thing is, what their passion is? And he said, the guy's don't look at it that way, because something that you're passionate about is something that you've been working on, and something that you're working on, and something you currently enjoy doing, and then one day it's consumed you, but you don't start out passionate about it very often. And he said, so to start doing something that you love, or that you're really happy doing, and then eventually it may turn into that. And it was kind of because today was the day I kind of started realizing about that I think I do have some kind of passion for this, for sports education medicine. And, I thought that was actually pretty poignant, because it's if you're chasing that passion for something, you're never going to find it, because you have to build that, same thing. I'm not as passionate about my wife as I was the first time I met her. Or excuse me, vice versa. I wasn't as passionate about my wife when I first met her as I am now, because it's something I'm working on. So you're not going to find that in a profession right out the gate, especially not something you've been working on.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me feel good knowing all right, well, I think I'm on the right path, right now. So pretty cool.
Yeah. It's when you start discovering, and it's hard to try to walk somebody through it, because I've seen a lot of guys transition out, and when you're talking to them about, hey, settle down. At first, it's that freak out panic mode. What am I going to do for money? What am I going to do for money? Bills and finances it's hard to not freak out about it. You got to put food on the table and you got to be able to provide for your family. But it's always the ones that take a deep breath and relax and then listen to you and hear you when you say, when I tell them like, hey, take a deep breath, relax, focus on what you truly value. What are the things you want out of your next chapter? Don't think about money. Just think of it in terms of like, what's more important to you? Like time, being able to do something that you enjoy. Like think about the values that you're going into the next chapter with. Because the Army gives you its values: loyalty, honor, duty, self-service, all those things. And they're great. But what are your values going forward? What do you want to do? Honor your family. Think about that. Think of it that way. The ones that are able to outline and show like, okay, I want to be able to know that I have like purpose. Like I want to be able to have that integrity, knowing that like I don't have to falter or watch my words within this organization, or I can't do this. I want to be able to be on my terms, meet life on my terms. Like the people that do those values exercises before they start looking for that next step, they go right into what they're supposed to be doing for themselves. Like they go right into the right job, into the right field. And all it takes is just understanding that you don't just have to chase the income. Don't worry about the money right off the bat. Look at the things that really, truly matter. Like, if you don't do that, 6 months, it's scientifically 6 months to a year, can be relooking in the want ads or LinkedIn for that new job. Because what you went into wasn't what you were passionate about, or it didn't go in line with your values. Maybe they wanted you to prioritize the work instead of your family. And that's not my fucking values.
Yeah. I tried to give myself a year. I was not going to work for a year.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm just going to go to school, just going to focus on school. And it worked for a little while, but I actually found myself kind of doing worse in school because I had nothing really, aside from, dropping my kid off at school every morning and being there to pick her up. That was awesome. But all of the time in between I didn't know what to do with myself. And like I as far as like educationally, like I took a big dip in my GPA because it was like I didn't have that structure. Knowing like, all right, I've got to spend this much time doing this because I have to do this over here. And then, another thing that I learned is like I have to be in service. And it's something that I've realized about myself since getting out is I don't know if it was just who I was before the military or if it's something that's been ingrained in me because of the military. But if I'm doing something specifically for me, I don't feel good about it. I feel guilty in a sense. And, that might be some unhealthiness in there because it also makes it really hard for me to like relax. But also like, there was like an emptiness and maybe it was also going back to work and being around my tribe, and then with that tribe, we're still working towards the same mission, the same goal. It's like I still hear the same kind of fucking bitches and gripes that you used to hear in the team room. It's the same stuff, little like cliques and rivalries and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the mission is getting done, and it's done in some of the most professional manners that you get to be around. It was something that I was missing, and I didn't realize I was missing it, or that. Yeah, I don't realize I was missing that until I started getting. And so, even in the future chapters, I hope to stay still at least plugged into something like that. There's definitely some moves to be made, some advanced degrees to go get, but I hope that I can still at least maintain some connection to the schoolhouse and giving back to the future medics within special operation and our allies. If that's a Christmas miracle, that would be the one I'm asking for.
Dude, connection's such a huge, powerful thing that we don't think of on a daily basis until we understand the power of it. Connect and engage. Connecting with the right people, because you can go to a family function and feel completely alone. People aren't like you. They don't talk the way you do. They don't get your references. And it's so different. But when you're connected and engaged with your people on a daily basis, your mood gets better. Like you all of a sudden feel like, holy shit, like I want to get to that environment. I want to go there. And that we do that. We all have the ability to do that. All of us, no matter where you're at. It just takes a little bit of vulnerability, being willing to go to that place, put yourself in that situation. So if you're listening right now and you find yourself in this holiday season feeling a little bit alone, stop telling yourself to stay insulated. Stop telling yourself to just stay indoors. Go and connect and engage your people. There are tons of veterans out there, tons of veteran organizations. We don't do enough work to advocate on our own behalf, but start doing it for yourself. Connect with the local VFW. Connect with any local area chapter of the American Legion. Volunteer. Wherever you're at, there's a way to connect and engage with other people that are like you, and it will help you improve in your mood, in your well-being. Before you know it, you'll be thriving again. Kaz, I want to thank you for coming today and being here and talking with me and sharing your awesome experience. Again, if you want some last-minute gift ideas, here's a couple. Go grab a couple new t-shirts from triplenickel.com or head on over to securedhalt.com and pick up some of my new swag. That's right, new shirts, new hats, some coffee mugs have dropped. There's my promotion for the episode. Cass, any parting words for the audience?
I'd just like to add on to what you were saying as far as the the holiday depression and sadness and stuff like that. If anybody needs to talk, thunderrescue@gmail.com or Chronicles of Cass on Instagram, reach out to me. I'll always be there to lend a ear and lend a shoulder to anybody who needs it.
Hell yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And to you listening at home, I appreciate you. Until next time, take care and have a jolly, wonderful Christmas. We'll see y'all next time.